Hi and welcome. And I know it's been a couple of weeks, at least a couple more actually, since I sent out a video about the magic of thinking big. And I don't know if you actually did the exercise. Oh no, my kitty. Go away, Gypsy. I'm busy. She's been fed, but that doesn't mean she's not got appetite for more. Anyway, so yeah, thinking big is a game changer if you really do it and pay attention to what's going on inside you, because thinking big starts to push away the boundaries that have really, in the case of some of our lives, been there for decades. They were just things that we were taught, ways that we were supposed to behave, things that we learned as children, as young women, and so on through our lives. And the result is we're limited to staying within those, basically within that identity, which we created. I'll tell you a little bit more about it, but we created it at a time when we were so young, we had no perspective at all on what we were doing. So thinking big is on purpose. It's an effort to begin to bump up against your usual self-concept and cause you to go, oh, what was that? Your inner psyche is definitely reacting to that, even though you may not notice any new thoughts right away. It sets off an alertness inside, like, what's she doing, or what does this mean? And then I suggested to you that you set an intention. And the reason I suggested that is it is a way to catalyze an area of your life where you would like to make some changes right now. So regardless of where that area might be, it might be love, it might be your energy and your health, it might be a desire to have love in your life at an intimacy, in an intimate way that you haven't been able to experience, or you would like in your marriage that has gone a little bit flat, to reestablish that, to learn some of the skills to reawaken a genuine love friendship. So those are some of the areas. I'm going to list all of them, but there are areas in which women especially want to grow now. And so that's why we set an intention. That's the point of it. So if you're feeling like you want that flow of abundance in any area of your life, you're in the right place, and you are not alone. Women around the world are waking up. This is a time where we're kind of over just doing the job within the system and collecting our retirement. It's not enough. This is a time where I think I don't have to tell you there are a lot of challenges, and I think that women are particularly suited to be leaders. If you decide, I'm going back to that topic again, just because we know how to bring people together. We know how to hold the center. We know how to communicate with people. We were always the ones who held civil society together while the men were off at wars or whatever they were doing. We treated the wounded when they got home. We took care of the elderly and the dying. We gave birth. We actually ran all of civil society, and I'm going to do a section on that coming up in a week or so, because I think it's really important that we know our original heritage, because it's rather ironic that we were at one time considered to be representatives of the divine, and there's a whole history of how we got knocked out of that regard and have traveled through centuries where we have been considered problematic human beings for a whole bunch of reasons. I am vastly simplifying there, as I'm sure you're aware. And so I'm going to go into that later. But today I want to focus on some of the steps, some of the experiences that can happen when you start thinking big. I like thinking big. So what happens with regard to the magic part of it, is when you start to align with the person that you were born to be, the radiant woman that you were born to become, uh, the universe starts to align with you again. We got knocked out of alignment. We're like cars going down the road with a flat tire because of the way our families, the culture, the schools shaped us because what they thought girls should be like. And of course, every generation, I just washed my hair, so so every generation we have our unique struggles, but we're still up against some limitations, both in the external world as well as in the internal world, and our own internal challenges and what we went through as children, what we are each individually struggling with, but we do share things in common as well. So I'm going to go over some of that. So what I'm really inviting you to is to be happier in your life, to get back in touch with that woman you were born to be, and just bring out your glow, bring out you wouldn't be here on this planet right now if you didn't have unique gifts that the world needs. And unfortunately, because we were socialized, we lost touch with some of them. I could tell you my own story. Maybe I will a bit. But, we got told there were things we were doing that weren't okay, and we stashed them away. So what I'm inviting you to do is to take some time for yourself and to really start to listen to your intuition in a really heartfelt way, to recognize your beauty, to recognize your talents, even if you can't quite get a hold of them all and articulate them, and you're still wondering about how could I even bring them out in the world at this point. I can tell you this, age doesn't matter. You can be young and an old soul. I think some of the young people today are old souls, or you could be 70 or 80. It doesn't matter how old you are. What matters is that you go, oh, wait a minute, I don't want to miss out on being the most impactful woman I could possibly be. So how do I learn how to do that? I really want to make a heartfelt, creative impact in this world, because I know I'm needed. You are needed. You are needed. I can tell you that. I do follow politics, and I listen to some of these men talking, and God bless them, because there are plenty of men, not in Congress yet, but there are men who want to travel this same path that I'm talking about. They understand we need the return to our culture of some of the feminine values. That's a whole other talk as well, which I'm not going to go into right now. But it's good to know that. I'm not saying that we don't love men, but boy, the ones that are promoting war, the ones that are, trying to extract every last dollar out of the planet, no. No, we need this planet for our children's children's children. And women are the ones who really, we get that in our bodies. It's embodied in us. So if you feel now that you're on the cusp of taking some risks in order to grow, you know that you need to ground yourself in listening, in your own feminine wisdom. And that isn't done by rushing around all the time and completing things on your do list. That isn't done by working 10 hours a day in your home office on your own business. Yes, I know what it's like to run around, like they used to say, chicken with your head cut off. I was a single parent. I was in graduate school. I was working full time. I was doing everything at once, maintaining the cars, growing a little garden, trying to take care of my kids, studying for class, and then going to work full time. I was a teacher, high school English teacher, and then I was in graduate school and I trained to become a therapist. Then I realized that I really wanted to be a coach because I like working with women who are really ready to make a leap. I met Jean Houston once, You might know her, and I took my book up. I mean, I don't know her. I just listened to her give a talk in Corte Madera. And afterwards, I took up the most recent book she had written, and she wrote in the front, "To Melanie, who leaps high." So I am encouraging us all to leap high, because this is our time. And if you don't feel confident and you're not sure, don't worry about that right now. Just, I love what a coach said, let it be easy. Just let it be easy, and take the time to maybe grab a pen in your journal and just listen. Just listen. Ask the question, I really would like to be more abundant in my finances now, but I really don't know what to do. Should I get a second job? Should I ask for a raise? Should I start my own business? Should I get a second job and bake muffins and sell them around the neighborhood? What should I do? And it might be love, and it might be health and energy. So give yourself some private time and some space, because what will happen when you do that is you will start to get downloads. That's the beginning of the magic, is when you stop trying to do it with your rational mind and figure it out, and you just relax, you let it be easy, have your pen at the ready, and see what you get. And you may not get anything right away. Don't worry about that. If you haven't been journaling, or you haven't felt your intuition flowing, it may be because you're tired. It may be because you've been super busy. So just give yourself a break around that. And so one of the questions I want to make sure, I was going to, let's see. Oops, yeah, I skipped a page here. What happened? Or the numbering, or I'm not reading it right. Oh, this is right. This is page 2. I wanted to read you the 8 key areas that women name, and see if one of these really resonates, especially with you. The first one, and these are the areas in which women decide they want to choose one. I think it's wise to focus in the beginning on one, but all of them will come along. They're not separate. Your life is a whole, but each of these areas are different. So if you focus on one, you will start to develop some skills that we're going to be talking about, and then it'll spill over into other areas of your life. So the first one is confidence and presence. Really big one, important one. Values aligned prosperity. Love and relationships. Purpose and calling. Where did I lost my place here already? Health and self-care. Creativity and self-expression. Spirituality, and influence and impact. So I will put those also inside the email in the text version, and see if one of those areas resonates particularly for you. So when we think big, we start to jostle our usual self-concept. And that's super important, because we women created an identity under duress, shall I say, because society and our parents all had ideas about who we should be, and it wasn't necessarily who you were born to be. I know in my case, I paid a price, and it took me a long time. It took me a long time to get back on track. So a question isn't I get this question sometimes, isn't thinking big just like magical thinking? Actually, it's the opposite of magical thinking. Magical thinking is when you have a thought, an idea, you want to say some words, and you think you believe magically that will affect outer reality. That's not it. That's not intention. That's not the magic of synchronicity. So they are absolutely opposites. The next question I get is, well, but isn't thinking big just like some kind of positive affirmation? Actually not, because at least as I teach this, thinking big is just the first step. You're just working to kind of stretch a bit and make room for something new. But there is a whole growth process. And if you don't go through that inner growth process and become conscious of the ways in which you limit yourself and the negative things you say to yourself, like I'm not enough, when you're under stress, for example, or tired, or I'm never good at this, or I'll tell you what research shows the difference between men and women. This is an important thing to know. And let me just say that we haven't had a culture of women. This research is really recent. I mean, recent within the last 30 years, focusing specifically on women's consciousness, women's experiences in the world. So what we're doing here is not doing an affirmation, because if you don't do that inner work, it's like putting frosting on a moldy brownie. For most people, affirmations don't work because you haven't done any of the inner work to get beyond some of those self-limiting thoughts. And what I was going to make reference to is that when women make a mistake, when we feel we make a mistake, we make it about who we are. We say, I'm not good enough. I can't believe how often we just automatically default to that. Or we say, I'm so sorry. We say that a lot. Men make it about, I did the wrong behavior and I just need to learn the right skill. They don't make it about their identity. So this is how we end up with a lot of self-doubt and lack of self-confidence. We're so harsh on ourselves. So I just keep on saying, let it be easy, please. Just, and I've had to learn this. So that's why I'm making a point of that. So the next question I often get, well, isn't setting a goal and setting an intention the same difference? Aren't they synonymous? Actually, they're not at all synonymous. And we usually get told to set goals, right? Set your goals, lay out the plan of action, and then do the steps, do the strategy, and use willpower, muscle on through, etc. Actually, the word, here's what I wanted to say, that setting a goal is based on a want. I want this. I want a new car. I want to feel more confident. And so what are the positive steps that I can take? Well, we're all different. So how do we put that on a list of a do list for completing that goal? So want, the word I want means, the etymology of it means to lack. In other words, to be wanting, to be in want. And that's not a good foundation for building a positive, strong sense of where you're going with whatever your choice was in one of those 8 areas. By contrast, intention is related to the word desire. Desired is desira, from the stars. So when you take the time to go deep and to set an intention, you are starting to awaken your destiny. You are starting to aim towards your true north star. Who in the world ever taught us any of that? I had to learn this stuff. Gosh, if there had been a high school class for girls about some of this stuff, oh man, I think I would have taken that class twice. So intention, setting an intention, it takes a little skill and practice to know that you've really anchored into yourself. But setting an intention goes much deeper, and the process, it's a process. It's not a series of steps. When you set a goal, you know where you're heading. Let's say you want to redo the bathroom. You know you're going to pick fixtures, you're going to pick new cabinetry, maybe change the windows, new flooring. What's the color scheme going to be? Who do I need to call? What do I need to order online? It's like these steps. You can see the bathroom finished in your mind's eye. I challenge you to see the steps you would go through to meet the love of your life. It works by synchronicity. It doesn't work. It's a path of evolution, and it's a process. So when you step onto that, It calls for faith, actually. It calls for faith, first of all, in yourself, and an understanding that once you begin to align with your true self that you were born to be, the universe actually begins to send you little messages. If you've ever had a synchronicity in your life or several, the universe is trying to tell you something. It's trying to call your attention to something. And it might seem rather silly. Um, I'll give you one example. This is just a simple one, but rather amazing when I experienced it. I was considering making a road trip and to the south, actually to Arkansas. And I wasn't feeling entirely sure that I wanted to go there. There was someone I wanted to get to know there, and but that's a long drive from Los Angeles, and I wanted to drive because I love driving actually, and I like seeing the countryside, and I like my car. I like being in it. It's very safe. It's a Volvo sedan. It's heavy. It's fast as hell, and no, I haven't gotten any tickets yet. I keep my eye out. Um, and I thought, I don't know if I should go to Arkansas. But I had everything packed. I'm like, I'm going to go, but I'm just feeling uncomfortable. I come out in the morning to get in the car. Right in front of my car is a car with a license plate saying, ta-da, Arkansas. I'm like, oh, you're kidding me. That's what I mean. It really happens, and it can happen in ways that just blow your mind. I mean, I had a class I wanted to take, and it was kind of expensive, and I thought, maybe I should just postpone it. Maybe I'll take the less expensive version. Through a series of synchronistic connections, I ended up getting the whole class for free, which was a great relief to me because I had some other bills to pay at the time. So I'm just saying that when you start to align, it's like the universe goes, as Jean Houston says, aha, we think we've got a live one here. So trust yourself, trust the universe, trust the process, even though it's not always fun. It's not always fun. There are challenging times of getting through the pain, the anger, the grief of how you were shaped, what you lost, how you still don't feel confident. You might still be suffering from anxieties and fears, and you're like, this is so frustrating, I should be beyond this. No, you shouldn't, not necessarily. You're here now, it's the right time. So, yeah, when you decide to self-actualize, that's what you're doing. You're setting your new North Star. And I also want to say something else because this is at the bottom of this page. I almost missed it. That when we realize that we want to make a change in our life, let's say you want to increase your income significantly over the next 12 months. And so you think, okay, how do I do it? What's my do list? Oh, that's right, I'm supposed to set an intention. But I don't really know what to do, and I don't know if I'm going to hear the right things. Here's what I want to point out. Don't think you have to do it alone. We don't become ourselves by ourselves. We do not become ourselves by ourselves. And anybody who tells you that they are a self-made millionaire or whatever is not telling you the truth, because they had people's shoulders to stand on. And that's what I want to encourage you about. And it may not, you want to have other people in your life who are self-actualizing, other women, and you want to develop the skills to know who to ask to mentor you. But it's really important to realize that that is okay. I had to get over that. My mother was different. My mother was a narcissist, and there were reasons for that, which I won't go into right now. But if I wanted to ask for help, she told me I shouldn't impose. Do not impose on people. Don't ask. Don't go to their house. Just take care of your own private business, and that's it. Well, so I grew up very shy about asking for, raising my hand if I didn't even understand. I was a good student, so I didn't there wasn't a whole lot I didn't understand in grammar school, for example. Most of us girls were really good students in grammar school. That presents a problem, which I hope I'll remember to bring up here when it comes to working in the work world. But I want to give you an example of how valuable, magical it is to just ask for help. This is not my client, somebody else's client. This is a woman who had been working for 20 years in corporate America. And she was just, I mean, she was done. She just could feel inside, now is the time. It's really transition time for me, but I do not know what to do. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to do it. I don't know who to ask about it. And her coach said, why don't you just go home, let it be easy, chill, or whatever she said. I don't think she said let it be easy, but I've picked that up from a coach that I like, and so I think about it. And I say it occasionally. So she did. She went home and stopped trying to struggle to get the answer and popped into her mind, kind of a download, I think I'm going to call that woman I met a year ago at that workshop, and I never followed up. So she called the woman. They agreed to meet for lunch. And during lunch, she said, I don't know what, I've got to do something different. I cannot go on in this job that I've had for 20 years. And so the other woman said to her, well, have you ever thought of becoming a consultant? And she said, well, no, actually, I don't know anything about doing that. I'm not, I don't know. I'm not sure I feel comfortable. And the woman said, well, I actually happen to have a friend who did exactly what, going through the experience you're going through, she decided she really needed to get out of the corporate world, and she decided to become a consultant, and she's doing very well. Would you like to have her phone number? See that? Because she just took the risk, asked for some help. Please ask for help, ask for ask for people that you can network with to help you. Sometimes people say, well, where's the magic part? Well, that's kind of like putting the cart before the horse. The magic comes out of starting this process of listening to yourself, of developing your awareness of your intuition, of becoming aware of the ways in which you have been criticizing yourself, limiting yourself, and allowing yourself to know and trust that at a deeper level you are a very talented woman. You were born uniquely with gifts that nobody else has. And it's your obligation. This is your opportunity to begin to bring it out into the world. And the magic shows up later. So we're not trying to find the magic deliberately. We're just trusting the process, trusting the universe, and it will unfold. And again, like I said, it's not that straight rational line that goal setting follows. It's kind of serendipitous, and it wanders here and there, and sometimes it seems, what am I doing this? But it'll all fit together. It'll all fit together, I promise you. So, I want to, I want to talk now about why it is we got so off course and out of alignment with our true selves. Well, here's what happened. You were born with all those gifts within you, but you were born into a specific time historically, and a specific family, and a specific culture, and they all had their ideas of how things should be. Where did they get those from? Guess who? Their mothers and fathers. So we may not have a whole lot of enlightenment going on here, or much worse. You might have actually suffered trauma, but here's what happened. In the first 7 years of your life, you were in alpha brainwave state, which is a slower brainwave state than everyday consciousness, which is beta. In alpha, for the first 7 years, a quasi-hypnotic state, somewhat like meditation, and you were just looking around, figuring out what it means to be human, and you picked it up from your parents and from school and from your parents' friends and the society. And what did they tell us about girls? Well, We girls were supposed to be certain ways and not other ways. So you might have been a real outgoing tom girl, tree climb. I was a tree climber and a horseback rider, and I was very feminine. I loved all the feminine stuff as well, but I also wanted to be an actor and a dancer. Oh no, you can't do that. We don't do that in this family. We don't like artists in this family. You need to be a teacher. I did become a high school teacher, but it didn't really fit me. It was okay, and I love literature. But anyway, so there you are, copying behavior, and you end up living somebody else's life. As Bruce Lipton once said, don't live someone else's life, live your own life. But you did this unconsciously, and you created an identity as best you could out of what you were absorbing and what you were told wasn't acceptable, and you put that away. And it all happened before you had actually very much memory. And you certainly had no perspective or inner knowledge about who you really were. So you made up this little person, this identity, which, why did you do it? Survival, acceptance. You wanted to be loved. It's absolutely survival that makes us adapt to what is expected of us. And psychologists call the result not the full you, they call it the creation of the survival personality. Wow, it took me a long time to figure out and to learn about that because of my experience with my mother and the limitations that she placed on me. Because she was narcissistic, her way was the only way. I could never talk back. I got punished if I did. And I went from being an outgoing, I loved dressing up, I liked theater, that kind of child, to quiet, don't talk much. And there I am. I was looking at a second grade picture of myself a few years ago. I'm sitting there and I am miserable. That little girl is miserable. She has dark circles under her eyes. She's not smiling. It's a class picture, right? Not a good thing to have happen to you. And that's why it takes some time to get back in touch with who you were born to be, because you don't realize that you've been living as only a partial version of yourself. You've been living out of a survival personality. So I wanted to bring that up so you would kind of get a perspective from a scientific point of view. And where am I here? Okay. So, oh yes, and then here's part of I wanted to mention this because what happens is because you didn't really have brain memory yet, your memory, long-term memory, comes online starting around age 3 for most people, sometimes not until 4, 5, or 6 for others, especially if you went through any kind of trauma. And that memory is buried in your body. So you've got this little person in your body who's in there, who thinks you're 5 years old still, and she's telling you to be very scared about certain things in life, or to be careful, or whatever it is you learned how to do. And part of the work we do is to get in touch with her so you can let her know, honey, I'm 48 years old now, and you're safe. I've got you. You can come out now. I'm not 5. I have a lot of experience, and you're safe. But that's where she is. She's in there in crouch position, and she is scared, and by God, she ain't coming out because it's a dangerous world. So that's part of the inner work that we do. There's all kinds of outer stuff that we take a look at as well. So, yeah, I put a note here about my mom. I asked her years later, why did every time I asked you for anything, you always said no? And she snapped back at me, she said, for your own good. And I was like 40 years old when I asked her that. But here's how I got away, because the thing about it, growing up with her, she never changed. And by the time I was 18, I was just counting the minutes till I could leave home. I got accepted. Just to give you a contrast, it was like she was trying to make me smaller than herself. She had a competitive aspect to her. And you know, I couldn't do anything about it. I just had to keep my mouth shut. And but I was accepted with honors to the University of California. So my parents are like, yay, you can go to Berkeley like we did. And I'm like, I think I need to get farther away from home. So I beat it as fast as I could to Los Angeles and went to UCLA. My mother was not happy about that at all, but that's the only way I could get out of town. She didn't even want me to go. Oh, I think you should get married now anyway. I was only 18. I get entered, I get accepted with honors. And her idea is, don't go to college like we did. You should get married. So it's like she was trying to shrink me down to some kind of size that just wasn't me. And so I just share that with you. There's also a book that a Swiss psychoanalyst, published in 1983 called For Your Own Good. So I said, oh, there's somebody who knows what that's all about. And another thing I want to say, this process of getting in touch with your intention, this is not, and this is something women will do after struggling with inner challenges, outer challenges in the world, you just get tired. And so some women will say, okay, I surrender. I surrender to God. I let go, let God. No, please don't do that. Because you will become passive, and the universe likes someone, wants to support someone, wants to have the back of someone who is moving. You don't maybe know all the right things to move into, but you're moving, you're growing, you're expanding. Please don't fall into that trap that women fall into, and they lose time because they're waiting for the universe to just find them, tell them what to do, whatever. So, in terms of being found, I just want to say something about the work world. Because we were such good little students in grammar school and high school, we were really good till we got to science and math in high school. Interesting, my mother was a high school math teacher. I was terrible at math, which didn't help our relationship one bit. And here's what the research shows. A young woman can make it all the way through school, learn all those nice little student behaviors, 100% on the paper, gold star. I loved it. I liked getting 100% on every paper I turned in. But it's not a good behavior once you get out in the work world, because what happens is women get out in the work world, in the corporate world, for example, and they wonder why they're not being promoted. They expect to be discovered because they're just doing good work. It doesn't work that way. Unfortunately, the politics of the work world, you have to learn how to promote yourself and to do it in a way to not antagonize people around you, because that's a whole other issue that I don't have time to go into right now. But the point of this is we learned to not rock the boat. We learned to be compliant and gentle and nice and cooperative and all of that. We made it, and this is a study done of young women. They, all the way through graduate school, start out as a lawyer or whatever, professionally. And then if they don't, here's two key things all humans need it. We need support, and we need recognition. And guess what women don't get in the corporate world even today? I told you last time about that Forbes article from May of last year, 2023. Women are leaving the corporate world because they're being sidetracked away from leadership. They're being not given support. They're suffering microaggression from people around them as they try to figure out how to be visible. We have an issue with promoting ourselves, and that's something I want to talk about later. We don't feel comfortable promoting ourselves. We feel like it's not ethical, or it's not me, it violates my sense of femininity or whatever. And if we don't learn how to make ourselves visible, we're not going to have the impact in the world that we were born to have. So unfortunately, we're born into a masculine defined culture. I'm going to talk about what that does in terms of your own self-actualization. I don't have time to do that today, but I will. I think that's going to be my next video. But just know that one of the skills, and that is part of this path, is once you wake up and realize, oh my gosh, my self-concept is shifting. I'm feeling more confident, but I don't seem to have certain skills. That's true. So that's really important. And one of the skills is learning how to become visible, learning how to presence yourself so that people notice you and that you can speak up confidently and, you know, in a way that's not going to trigger antagonism, because the world still doesn't like ambitious women. So we got our plate full of what we need to learn. But I'm not saying that we can't do it, because we can. And a lot of women have, and I've experienced some of that myself. So I'm here to tell you we can do it. And it's just a matter of trust. It's a matter of doing the work. It's a matter of staying open. That's really important. It's not to shut down and go, I'm going back to being rational because this isn't working. Trust. Stay open. Stay curious. What am I going to hear next? What is my next step? That's a really important attitude to have. They don't teach us that either. So I wanted to mention that. So, yeah, this shift is really important. As John Kabat-Zinn said once, wherever you go, there you are. So we want to go there as our new improved selves, right? We don't want to go there feeling self-doubt attacking us right at the moment when we want to step forward and make a good impression or an impact or lead a group or whatever your thing might be. So this is all about a new way of seeing ourselves. Oh, one thing I did, one other research-based thing I wanted to mention. This blew my mind. I got this out of a book called Necessary Dreams by a Manhattan therapist. She's actually she's a psychiatrist. She's a physician, and then she got her clinical training. She said that research shows that women expect 50% less than men. So if you use salary, for example, the potential employer says, what do you want to earn? Now this may be 10 to 15 years out of date. A woman will say, I don't know, 50,000 a year. A man, guess what he says? He says 100,000 to start. We're in our own little ghetto. We don't know certain things, so this is part of the learning process. And then, on top of that, when it's time to speak up, whether it's in the board meeting or the PTA or, whatever, women need to feel 80 to 85% certain before they will speak up. That's how women don't get promoted. They're still trying to get to be the best employee of the year, or I don't know. I've worked in the corporate world, but not trying to be on the track to leadership. It's just, I don't know, a part of me was never comfortable with the corporate world. I think it's the artist in me, or the rebel or something. But anyway, so put those two things together. You have to be 100% knowledgeable to get 50% back. Oh my God. No wonder. We have things to learn, don't we? So I hope that you can see that what we're doing here is we're shifting into a new way of seeing ourselves. We're talking about catalyzing in ourselves talents that have always been there, and we just haven't developed them yet. So what else did I want to say? Because this is getting long. I wish this ink hadn't printed so light because I can't read it. Okay, so that's pretty crazy. So let's not try to force ourselves to be 100% perfect, because we'll still be trying to do that, and another few years will have gone by. Let's learn how to present ourselves, be out there, learn a few skills, and get it as good as possible. I want to invite you, if you'd like to get more clarity on where you're at in terms of setting your intention, You can go to my calendar. I'll put a link in there. I do have a few openings. There's no charge to go through kind of a clarifying session, and you'll come away from it with a lot more clarity about yourself, where you are in your process, and just, you know, feeling energized actually and excited about moving forward with your life in a way that you may not really have ever tried before. Or if you did and you're back saying, I need to do round two, that's good too. And I want to leave you with this quote. I really love this quote. To follow up on that struggle we have with thinking we have to be perfect in order to get anything back. And here it is. It says, luckily, I can be incredibly imperfect and wildly successful at the same time. I can be incredibly imperfect and wildly successful at the same time. I really love it. What I want to say is I got that from another coach. It's not my quote, but you're welcome to use it if you want to. Put yourself on my calendar if you would like to do that. I probably will release this tomorrow, Friday, and then another one next Tuesday or so, in which I'm going to take a look at the impact on us of growing up in a masculine defined world. We have had a masculine defined world since the Greeks, and it really got bad in the 17th century when Descartes declared that the whole universe that was mechanical. God created it like a mechanical clock and then withdrew, and it's all just running fine, and we don't need any, you know, sense of the spiritual, because now we're all doing, you know, using our rational minds. We don't even, our bodies are just there to carry our minds around. I mean, this was a tremendous loss of some of the deep truths that human beings have always lived by: the sacredness of life, the sacredness of nature. This mechanical attitude that came out of the 17th century turned nature into dead material to be exploited. And yeah, it's nice to have our cell phones and our technology, but I think we also need to speak up for the earth now, or we're all going to be fried to a crisp with global warming. And in that, I just want to put out a little bit of information about what actually will cool the earth. What will cool the earth is not getting off fossil fuels, because there's so much fossil fuels, I mean CO2, stored in our oceans right now, that the level of CO2 will not go below 450 or more for hundreds of years. That's how much CO2 is saving our ass by being stored in the oceans. What will cool the earth is restoring our soil. We have desertified over the centuries about 40% of our earth. And so the water cycle is off. That's why the water's in the sky. It's not in the earth anymore, because the earth is dead. So we need our ranchers, we need our farmers. Tell everyone, it's not about getting off fossil fuel. It's about restoring the global hydrological cycle by healing our soil. So that's my little speech about that. I'm very passionate about it. I grew up with a childhood partly in the San Francisco Bay Area, but very importantly, partly in rural California. I just have such a deep feeling for the soil, for the plants, for the rain, the seasons. We're screwing it up thanks to this mechanistic attitude towards the earth, that it's just something dead. We're just going to plow it. We're going to extract. We're going to treat it like shit, cut down the trees. We need to restore our earth. So I'm sure you know that, but I know you're seeing a lot of stuff about get off fossil fuels, get off fossil fuels, Bill McKibben and all that. No, I want to give you a name, Walter Yenna. If you want to look him up on YouTube, he has several videos. He's a really good teacher. He's an Australian soil microbiologist. He's worked with the UN around this whole issue of restoring our soils. His last name is spelled Jehne, Walter Yenna. All right, I'm going to stop. I've been talking for quite a while. I'm really glad that you're here. I hope that this lands for you and that you do try the whole expansive exercise of thinking big. Just allow it to yourself. And then think about setting, and do it actually, don't just think about it. Set an intention in some area. And if it shifts a bit, that's fine. There was a woman, just to give you an example, she wanted to make partner in her law firm. She'd been wanting to make partner forever and it wasn't happening. And she needed some coaching and support to do that. Again, not my client, but I think it's a really good example, so that's why I'm sharing it. She started with that intention. She wrote it down. She did several of the self-discovery sessions. And then it all shifted, and I realized one night what she really wanted was love in her life. She wanted to meet the man that she'd never met. She just longed for that. It just blossomed up out of her. That's how this works. It just starts to bloom like a rose. It really does. 4 months later, she met him. He's also an attorney. She realized the only reason she wanted to make partner was she thought it would make her more appealing so she could meet the man she wanted. Isn't that crazy how we think sometimes? So actually, they have started their own law consulting business. I'm not sure what area it is now. They've been happily married for several years. I love that story. So it shows you that intention is growing, just like a plant. I have to bring up my agricultural background again, including the horse. My grandfather grew horses and roses. They weren't white horses, but I saw that and I said, I got to have that. I got to have that poster. So blessings to you. May your heart just bloom like a rose as you look at who you were really born to be. And I'll come back with you in a few days. Love to everybody. Bye for now.